farcical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on in to the Saturday Night Network for another hot take show here to break down everything from the Quinta Brunson and Lil Yachty episode of Saturday Night Live. My name is John from the SNN. Very excited to be back with you as we head towards the end of the season. Can't believe it. Only 5 more episodes after this one. And we will be there to cover all of them, all of the best sketches, the best moments from the season. But tonight we have a really fun, wild, crazy episode to talk about some really big moments. And I'm so excited to do it with these two guys on the podcast tonight. So first, let me introduce my fellow penis brother, TJ Randolph. TJ, how you doing?
Whoa!
Coming in hot.
Yo, sir, in all my years of podcasting, I have never had an introduction like that. What the? I can't even do this. I have to leave. I can't even do the show. Like,
Please don't leave. Yeah.
Oh my God. Hell no. John, I had like a whole bit planned that went right out the door.
Yeah, it's like we're calling in Shay tonight, just bits going up in flames.
I know, like, but wow, you have never I thought it's my job to derail the show, John. You derailed me,
April
which was
Fools.
honestly.
TJ, how are you?
Jesus, I'm attacked, violated. But overall, other than maybe considering seeing a therapist, I'm feeling very mentally well. And I'm very glad to be here, I guess.
Well, I'm happy to have you. I knew that when Quinta Brunson was booked for the show, first text went off to TJ, so you had to be here tonight, and we're all excited to get your thoughts on the episode. But of course, I have to bring in another guy who I'm always thrilled to get to talk to on the podcast, one of the great hosts of the SNL Nerds podcast. It is Darin Patterson. Darin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Black and highly favored. John, good to be here. You didn't say it, so I take it.
What is happening here?
Darin, it's great to get to speak to you. I'm so excited to get your thoughts on the season as a whole and really on this episode tonight. But yeah, so Quinta Brunson, Lil Yachty, what a really fun start to this run of shows that we're going to be having over the next few weeks. We got an alumni coming in next week as well, so we'll get to that and to our excitement for that episode. But some fun sketches tonight, and I really want to get from the guys on the panel tonight their hot takes or headlines from the evening. So TJ, how are you feeling overall about what you saw tonight from Quinta?
Well, John, we're not going to act like you didn't just do what you just did 2 minutes ago, because I'm still personally reeling from that motion.
You want me to start with Darin?
Because other than that, my hot take for the episode is that Quinta Brunson, as much as her star has risen and has exploded, Quinta Brunson, and I mean this more neutrally than rather as a compliment. Quinta Brunson felt like an ensemble. This was an ensemble episode of SNL, not a mediocre episode of SNL, but not one where the host comes in and like is punching through everything. This is one where like Quinta felt like it was somebody that Lauren hired, and she had a couple of really good standout moments. It would have been very easy to turn on the show and forgotten that she was hosting the show. And that's not a dig at all. I'd say it works in her favor. And I guess maybe I came in more with expectations of more like star boosting, because I'd seen her like scene steal in like a Black Lady sketch show. And she did get to steal scene a couple of times, but I guess I was a little surprised by like, really, she just felt like a puzzle piece that just fit right in, but maybe in a little too well. But she did fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, she was great. It really did, as you said, TJ, feel like she could have been a part of the cast. And the question will be, as we go through the sketches, were the moments that Quinta had, did they make her stand out above the rest at any point throughout the night? And, were we able to look at her as ultimately being a great host of the show? So hopefully we'll be able to answer those questions for you as we go through the sketches. But first, Darin, over to you for your hot take or headline from the night.
Hot take or headline? Well, I mean, I agree with TJ. I thought Quinta really kind of fit into the cast really well. Like she pretty much became like a cast member. It's like you said, it's almost undiscernible. But my hot take, I think did Che just pull off probably the greatest April Fool's prank on SNL in SNL history? I really can't. What he would manage to do in Weekend Update, like I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. It just rattled. You can see it really rattled Jost when that because well, I mean, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, like once I noticed like Jost's first jokes weren't getting anything, and then when that little turn came, it was like, oh wow, that was ooh. It like the whole Weekend Update almost fell off the rails right there. It was really something.
I definitely have questions about that, but like we'll get to
let's put a pin in that because we're gonna do a whole section on Weekend Update and the moment and what went into that tonight, so we can explain it. Because I know a lot of people in the audience in the chat were confused about that, but I want to make sure to give it its moment. So let's do that in a little bit. And overall, I would say tonight, to TJ's point about Quinta fitting in with the cast, I am just utterly impressed with the cast of Saturday Night Live. I think we had like a little bit of, they were a little bit rocky a couple episodes ago, but I don't think it was the cast's fault. I just think that's normal for a Saturday Night Live season to have a few episodes here and there that don't necessarily reach the pinnacle. But season 48 has been a fantastic season, and this episode is no exception. I think that it was so great to get a big name host like Quinta, who clearly was going to fit in well. And for all the talk about the newbies being so great, and I do think that they are really the main thing we're going to take away after the season, there are some veterans on the cast, in my opinion, who are doing some really great work, including Mikey Day, who I'm very excited to talk about.
Finally.
Tonight. Yeah, so another home run for Mikey tonight. So I think we just have to say overall, like I think what they're building with this cast is really clicking, and I'm happy. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if we saw the same cast in 49. So I don't know if that is a hot take, but I'm enjoying what I'm getting to see from the show right now. So let's start off with our cold open from tonight, and that would be the Trump album cold open. So he opens up with his classic Taylor Swift, "It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me," after the indictment this week, and it's time to go to prison, April Fools. The 13th time we get to see JJ as Trump on SNL. But he's really here to, talk about his new album, the Now That's What I Call My Legal Defense Fund album, with 30 classic covers, all horrible, where he's singing different songs, including Islands in the Streams with Keenan. He sings Ironic, a little Alanis Morissette. Devin comes out as Afro Man. We get a little bit of Mikey as Don Jr. singing Boys a Liar Part 2. Interesting, that Mikey says, might be the last time I see you. I thought that was a little bit, could have been a little meta there. And then we get JJ as the Live from New York. So TJ, what did you think of the Trump album cold open and how it turned out tonight? And chat, make sure to put your thoughts as well.
I mean, if you listen to the show, you know how I feel about political cold opens, but I will say this was the first one that involved Trump in years, probably at least like 4 or 5 years. I was very tickled at the very beginning of this. I definitely was. I mean, I don't know what it like. I think it was JJ finally won me over a few weeks ago, and his Trump finally won me over a few weeks ago. Not in the sense that I need to see that ninja back all the time, but when I saw Trump's face, it was the first time in years that I wasn't like, oh, geez. Like I genuinely appreciated it. I appreciated the impression, but I realized what it is. There's an issue. It ran too long. This sketch could have been cut. Like I think you really had something with the first, like you have something with the Now That's My Legal Defense Fund joke. Maybe you do like 1 or 2 songs, but I think kind of like it's almost as if you didn't need the intro at the very beginning. You could have just done like Trump's doing a Now That's What I Call commercial, because those are very, I don't want to say iconic. Those are very familiar commercials if you live in the States. Like everyone's seen the Now That's What I Call Music 87. Like we've all seen those commercials. So I think there was something there that really was like fun, offhanded thought. Is Devin good at doing musical impressions and we just aren't noticing it because he did the British guy? I don't know if anyone's thought about that. He did like another thing too. And so that's just an offhanded note. But just like I've
never seen an Afro Man impression, by the way, at least on Saturday Night Live. So I don't know. I don't have any.
No, that's fair. Like no one has. Like I haven't thought of Afro Man since like he was on the Disturbia soundtrack in 2007. But like the fact that like there was that cringe of them playing these old white dudes singing along to Boys a Liar, and as much as that song is good and as mid as Ice Spice is, it definitely was like fun, but it dragged too long because I was like really enjoying the first few minutes, And then I was like, come on, man. But it wasn't political. It was just dragging a little bit. So I think they got
That's fair.
a little too confident there.
All right, Darin, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with TJ. Like, I mean, as soon as the news dropped about the indictment on Thursday, like, I think everybody on Twitter was like, all right, we're getting the Trump cold open. Like, no doubt about it. So, like, I imagine, like, the writers probably had a cold open ready to go. Then this happened. They're like, oh, God, we got to rewrite. They rewrote it. Probably, they had to rewrite a whole new one. And it kind of feels like it. Like, I don't know. I mean, I will agree, like J.J.'s Trump impression is the thing that saves it because it's so good and it's just so rambly, and the way he just kind of hops from topic to topic, and just like it's just sort of like kind of train of thought type of thing he does. I really do that, like that. I do enjoy that, but then the other parts where like Keenan comes in as Don King, it just felt very random, and then like you said, Afro Man, it just, I don't know, it just like kind of didn't add much to the whole cold open. I thought it could have been shorter, and yeah, like at first it kind of starts off with this premise of it being an album, and then it seems like it kind of veers away from that. I thought it would be like sort of a commercial style cold open, but then it doesn't really become that. It just becomes them singing songs from the 90s and whatnot. So I was like, I don't know. I would think like this was probably the weakest sketch of the night for me. Like I love JJ's impression, but I thought like the writing on this could have been a little tighter.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I didn't mind this, to be honest with you. I think that JJ as Trump tonight was really solid. I think some of the lines were like really hitting, and I think they're in a really good sweet spot of being able to use JJ's impression and still keep it fresh and keep it modern with all of the modern references. It's the key is the references, right? Like what JJ is saying and referencing things that are like, oh, okay, well, Trump, I guess, would bring this up just to stay relevant. So I think that, those things are what keep it fresh. When he is interacting with guests, I don't think that we get that element of JJ as Trump that's fresh anymore. I think it loses that spark. So I think for me, it's less of a problem of length of cold open and more that the style of cold open then switches when you have him interacting as guests. Because I just think it's not, or with his guests, because I don't know, that hasn't worked for me. That hasn't fully clicked so far. And I think we did see something similar probably in the Christmas show of this year where he was talking about his NFTs that he was selling. Like, it's a similar premise in terms of that cold open. But in this time, I really felt like they could have just nailed down the CD thing and talked about the indictment and then gone right into it. I mean, if he was going to do the solo LFNY anyways, I didn't need him to bring in other people there. It's not like any of them added to it. So I sort of agree with the panel here. All right, let's talk about the monologue that we saw tonight, where we get Quinta Brunson coming out and talking about her wanting to audition for the show, but her life took a little bit of a different path, and now she's winning Emmy Awards for Abbott Elementary, and gets to talk about how her mom was a teacher, helped inspire the writing for the show, and always gets to hear from Nordwin and DiCenzo, the writers, and Alex English, and some of the actual writers from Abbott Elementary helped write this monologue as well, where she talks about how people come up to her to ask her for teacher's advice, and they see her getting wasted at Universal Studios. So this was interesting. Darin, I'll start with you on it. What did you think of tonight's monologue from Quinta?
I really liked it. I thought, really endeared us to her and like what she's going through. Like, I mean, I'm sure most people know her, like you said, from Abbott Elementary. They know her as this great comedic actor and writer. But I have noticed on social media and stuff, like people do kind of come at them with their complaints about, teachers and whatnot. So maybe that's something that really did bother her a little bit. So she kind of wanted to speak on it about, how she sort of, I guess, become the de facto voice for all the teachers out there and the issues that they're going through. I like that one joke they had in there about where they kind of compare teachers to dishwashers. I thought that was pretty smart. I really got a kick out of that. And the way it just ended on pay teachers more. They're pretty much raising the future of the world here. So maybe we should pay them enough money to do so our future isn't all jacked up. So like I don't know. I thought it was a home run. I really dug the monologue.
Yeah, TJ, I know you were excited for this moment. So how did it turn out for you?
Well, for Miss Quinta, it just felt like, honestly, she's been on a victory lap. She's already won the Emmy. She's already done a bunch of the interviews. I mean, the only thing she has left to do now is a Hot Ones interview. Like that's, I mean, like pretty much done. She's done the whole press circuit, so she doesn't really. The thing I love about this is she doesn't really need it. On top of that, the SNL audience and the people who are watching Abbott very likely will intersect because they're the comedy nerds. So like Abbott is the biggest comedy on television right now. And so it makes a lot of sense that like with this, you don't need to come to this episode trying to learn more about her, like where you would maybe watch like a Kieran Culkin monologue because you want to learn more about that weird guy on Succession and his why does he talk to his lawyer Jerry like that. That's a really nobody needs sorry. But like so for me, I was just really excited to see what she was going to say because the only instance I haven't seen Quinta in is live. So I was more intrigued by that. And so like I wasn't paying much attention to the content of her words, but how she was performing, like little things like there was a moment where like, how do I say this? I was working on a project and I had to like film something. I had to film somebody for the project and like they were so clearly like we only got like one take and they were so clearly reading off of the teleprompter and I was like come on like I just it made it a lot tougher and we couldn't like shoot again and so it made it tougher but this was not the case but there was it made me kind of like a little bit more aware when people are reading from a teleprompter or reading from the cue cards from whatever Wally's writing and there was a moment where you can catch her reading the cue cards. I don't think in many monologues, I don't think I've noticed somebody reading the cue cards, but maybe because I'm such a fan and because I really was paying very close attention to this monologue, that's why I noticed it for the first time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But in like just kind of like stray observations, I always appreciate a jab at Friends because it just seems like a boring show about white people in New York to me. And that's like, there's like so many people in New York. Are you kidding me? I don't need to see some brothers that are just hanging out at a coffee shop. Although I do love Courtney Cox and she did Cougar Town. She could do no wrong. And appreciate the Obama cameo. I love this is a TJ thing. I love the time, anytime the phrase filthy whore gets said, it's such a funny phrase to me. And to hear it come out of the Quincy, I love that Darren just did a thumbs up right now, listener. I don't know why, but it gave me a little bit of delight. But I didn't need star power from this. I wanted her to host just because it's such a clear lineup. And so to be honest, like her just getting the gig gave me all the satisfaction and finished the arc that I had on this is my like you won't see him in the show again this whole season. That was my finished arc, was her getting on the show.
For sure. Yeah, I thought the subject matter was great. I think the monologue overall was written really well. I do think that she was talking really quickly. Like, I don't know if it was just me live, but I really felt like I just wanted her to like pace herself a little bit more, but I understand it's her moment and it's big. So not judging, just saying how I felt, but it was overall, I am happy for her to have this moment, and clearly it meant so much to her. So let's get into some of the sketches that she appeared in tonight, and we'll start off with the drug dealer sketch. And when I saw this appear during the commercial, I was like, are they doing another men's bathroom sketch back from the Kieran Culkin episode? Like, that's where I thought it was going to go at first. But basically, this one is Andrew and Devin. They're at a club in a bathroom. They're talking about the girls being insane, but they're looking for some pure coke. So first we get Marcella, who's offering some cocaine, that pure white cocaine. Quinta as well. Keenan comes out as well. And basically they make all these analogies for how white the cocaine is. And, eventually we get Punky too. JJ has a great cameo, like coming out of the washroom and just washing his hands quick. And it's like, it's that white. And of course, the great like switch up here of Michael Longfellow as the black tar heroin wall mosaic guy who comes out at some point as well. So TJ, would love to get your thoughts on drug dealers tonight.
Can we talk about that Michael Longfellow thing? I thought I was watching the Somebody I Used to Know video. Like for a split second, I was like, what just what like
I wrote that down. I was gonna say the exact same thing. Damn it.
Yeah. Wait, did I took your joke?
I stole my joke.
Why was he painted? Like, in terms of like things that are so unnecessary to a sketch, but like just works, and I can't explain the why. There is no reason that character needed to be painted. It just makes his intro funnier, but it just
what do you think of the sketch?
I'm talking about the sketch, John. That's part
All
of
right.
the sketch. So like, I had a rhythm.
Bobby.
Come on, man. Like, all right. Quinta's costume. I really like. I don't know. She did this twice, where Quinta has done this in impressions on the Black Lady sketch show, where she has this. You guys, it's called a pimp walk. Like, there's just this lean you have where you kind of just drop like a side of your body as you're kind of strolling. And so when she came out with them dreads and that costume, I was like, I know Miss Teagues is not out here in this costume. And so, as somebody who appreciates like a good like racial crack, this whole like something is so white, how white is it? Like, these kind of lines up, these kinds of sketches are just like for me. And as I'm dating a white woman right now, and I very much enjoy her, but she is very white and she's very pale, and so a couple of these I I thought she might take personally, and so I'm going to be sharing this sketch with her because I think she might appreciate it. But also, is there any phrase wider than "cut my life into pieces"? Screened. Is there anything really wider? That referencing that song is a special note of Caucasianism, and I appreciated this. I thought the sketch was very fun. Very silly. It's a very silly sketch.
Yeah. Darin, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, this sketch had. I like the sketch overall, but like it did, like it could have been. It almost came close to being too one note for me. You know what I mean? Like it has that thing where, yeah, because like the thing is with the sketches, like all these rival drug dealers want to sell them the guys this coke, and then they say, well, my coke is so white, then blah blah blah. My coke is so white. You go skiing with Gwyneth Paltrow in Utah. My coke is so white. And it becomes basically like almost like Yo Mama jokes a little bit at one point. But yeah, I didn't mind it though. It was all right. Like at one, saying like my coke is so white. Its dad sends it money for rent, or coke is so white. Like all those things. And I also like the one point I kind of switched it up where like when it says my coke is so white, it was written and directed by Noah Baumbach. And then I think Devin says, "Who's Noah Baumbach?" And then Dismuke says, "He's a poet."
That's the guy who did the Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson divorce movie, right?
Yeah.
Chat, maybe you'll let us know.
Yeah, that's a marriage story on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I like that movie, but I was like, other than that, I don't know who this brother's name is.
His name rings bells in white circles.
Yeah, the chat says yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry.
But yeah, like it is a thing where it is kind of one note, but I kind of like that note. But I will admit, yeah, they could have like tightened it up a little bit more. I do like when Longfellow just comes out of nowhere, painted like the wall behind him, and they had that little switch up where they go from cocaine to the black to her. I thought that was like a nice little divergent from all that. But overall, I thought it was a fun sketch. Maybe it could have been a little bit shorter, but overall, I thought it was I liked it.
Yeah, I like this too. I think from a structure perspective, it reminded me a little bit of in the late 80s, we got this Tom Hanks and John Lovitz characters where they were kind of playing like versions of Jerry Seinfeld, where they'd be like behind the scenes at a stand-up club and they'd just be like doing versions of Seinfeld. And to me, that sort of felt like, yeah, they set up a scene here where like two guys in our club, you like trying to buy cocaine, but it was all like just to mask the idea that they're making jokes about like how white the cocaine is, and it's really just a joke of repetition to just make those types of jokes. And I think that I think it worked for me. I really felt like it was really fun, and it felt like everybody was in on it together. Like nothing about this ever like really felt mean spirited. It all felt like a good time. Like and it felt like something that these guys would do just sitting around the office with each other. And like, that's the fun of it really, is like when you can sort of like watch a sketch, but also get to know like the people too. And I think that had those elements a little bit here. So for me, this was like a real pleasure to start off the night. I thought it was nothing like like we're going to get to sketches that are more complicated and probably better, but this to me was like a good like appetizer to start the night.
It definitely gave like the minute that I heard that Gwyneth Paltrow line, it made me think about how there's a clip of her going around on Instagram where she's saying very astutely, "I lost half a day of skiing," and so that line itself like just blew it up for me and just really cracked me up and like got me started off on a great note for the show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then we have a pre-tape called Will You Be My Bridesmaid, where we have Heidi, Quinta, Sarah, Ego, and Bowen and Punky all talking about being bridesmaids. And we have JJ as Dr. Greg Lawrence. And basically it's set up like this is a like documentary, like you would see like almost like a true crime documentary where they're talking about, what it's like to be a bridesmaid. And they're talking about the sociopath maid of honor played by Molly, Chloe as the bride as well, and the different aspects of what it is like in the commitment to become a bridesmaid with all of the penis stuff, lots of penis talk tonight, and about having to dance with different partners and singing Fresh Prince and terrorizing every gay bar in town. So lots of jokes in particular about bridesmaids tonight. So Darin, I assume you have not been a bridesmaid before, but was this relatable to you in any way?
I have not been a bridesmaid, always a bride. But that's not how it goes. But yeah, I mean, overall, like I thought the sketch was okay. I did like how they sort of compared it to the like the cult documentaries that you see on Netflix a lot. Like I think I haven't seen Wild West or Wild Wild World or whatever it's called, but there's like a bunch of documentaries about cults and people who fall prey to them and whatnot. So they're basically saying being a bridesmaid is like being in the cult. Like you think it's something that'll last a day or two, but it's like an 18-month commitment, and you got to buy a $300 dress that you're never gonna wear again, and you have to spend all this money to go on like the bachelorette party to like Nashville, and if you don't have the money, I think at one point Sarah Sherman's character said, "Yeah, I had to sell my car in order to go on this thing." I like this sketch. I think maybe some of the jokes, maybe it didn't go far enough for me. Like it seemed like okay, like it seemed like it was like hitting on a lot of the the tropes of being a bridesmaid, getting t-shirts say like brides tribes on them. But if I got what they were going at, but like I think the joke needed to hit a little bit harder for me. Like I can't put my finger on it. It didn't seem to like really pack that punch that I needed for it to like really get over the finish line. But like overall, but I thought the sketch was okay.
Yeah, TJ, I can only speak to being a groomsman a couple times, especially in the last year. And I definitely have had some experiences where I know it's like, once you're doing it, like you're all in, like you gotta go to the bachelor party, like you gotta go to the engagement party, you gotta like be able to prepare the gifts and talk to everybody and organize everything. And it is like a thing. And there were probably more minutia that were particular to bridesmaids here, but I do think that anybody who's been in a wedding party could probably relate to this idea. So what'd you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like John myself, but I've actually only been a member of a wedding party once. In I remember just thinking, I never want to do this again. I was glad to be there for my boy. We did have fun, and I did cry at his wedding because I was very proud. I was very happy for him. But after that, one thing about me is TJ hates weddings. I can't stand them as a spectator, as somebody who like. I have very good close friends, but I've definitely have friends that I would tell. Pretty much most of them, I would say like no. If I had to tell them no, I don't want to be in the wedding party because the wedding party thing is just so intensive, and it's never a thing against it. It's just it's all the to do. It's all the why am I going to buy something I'm not going to use again? Like I don't care what the purpose is, but that's ridiculous to me. That's aside the point. But like as much as I thought like doing the groom's party stuff. What is the groom party? Is it called a groom party? I know there's bridal party. What's the male version of it?
Groomsmen, I'd say.
Groomsmen?
Bachelor party? Or?
No, not bachelor party, but you have your bridal party.
I feel like it's like the wedding party.
The group.
I don't know.
The wedding party. Yeah, like that wedding party. Yeah, take the gender out of it, sure. But like, so it was like what? You get the suits, you have the party, and then that's pretty, and then you're kind of busy the day before the wedding, maybe strippers. Pass. Not my kind of thing. I don't like this. Hold on, I'm trying to be like PG, TJ. I'm trying my best, and John, you're killing me. I'm trying so hard not to curse. But like all that aside, but I don't. This is where like the female perspective will help. Like John, I don't know if Allie herself has been a bridesmaid. She would have that. This is where I really need to see like I need to show this to my partner and like be like, because actually it was really funny is today my partner actually she was out with a bridal party because for like a wedding that's going to be a couple months, and they were doing stuff all day. I knew I was not going to talk to her all day, and I'm like, the wedding is in 3 months. What could you possibly be doing? I didn't ask her that, but I'm thinking, what could they be doing that takes all day? And it wasn't dress fittings and stuff. It was like, I think they were like, I don't know. I do know. I talked to her about it, but like, there seems like a whole other process that like just seems icky. And as somebody who hates weddings, I love when stuff pokes fun at how ridiculous the culture is. And so I really appreciated this because all this stuff about weddings seems like really weird, especially the spending money on something you might not use again, with the exception of the tux in the dress. Like that I get, but like asking other people to be like, hey, do you want to spend $300? No, I could buy a Nintendo Switch with that money. No, I don't want to do this. I love you, but I will wear my own clothes. Like we can look nice. I have a good suit. So
I do think that like
stuff, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. I think like traditionally there's probably a little bit more of differences between the bridesmaids and the groomsmen side of things. I think in the bridesmaids case, there's a lot of like hair and makeup stuff that like takes a long time. And like that's the type of thing, especially on the wedding day. And then like that is part of the requirement of being there like a lot earlier. And then definitely like one of the key points here, and I just don't want to like overlook it because we didn't get to talk about the minutia of it. But Molly here playing the person who is being, I want to use the word correctly that they use, that sociopath. Yeah, exactly. So like I just want to make sure I got that right. That I think was the key here, was basically that, they're all feeling like the absolute pressure to do everything when they don't want to. And I think that was the fun of it. So I'm looking forward to talking about this a little bit more on Monday on our roundtable when we have a couple of women who are going to be joining us, and hopefully, or maybe they have been in a bridal party before and they could tell us more about their experiences. So stay tuned for that as we break down this sketch more throughout the week.
I just want to say I did love Molly in this. Like just the moment, doesn't Molly slap somebody with a clipboard? In like there's like I feel like it's a big missing moment where Molly does wham, I really appreciated Molly in this. In like
they're great.
Yeah, I thought Molly was fantastic.
Yeah, I think the sketch would hit harder for people who were like have been in Bridesmaid shoes, and
totally
like they'll be like. They'll really feel this one.
I really want to get other perspectives on it. I think it'd be really interesting.
All right, let's turn to a relatable concept called couple goals, where there is a game show here where JJ is our host and Keenan and Quinta are the Andersons, and then we have Michael and Punky who are the Cronins. And it's set up as a game show where basically, you're gonna have to answer questions about how well do you know your partner. And basically with Keenan and Quinta, there's this whole storyline that goes down where Keenan's asked questions about Quinta, and the whole thing is his biggest fear is that he doesn't want her to fall down the stairs and that he'll have to take care of her for the rest of her life. So all the questions is about being worried about her, something happening to her and him having to take care of her. And then we get this second sort of story, this B plot of Michael and Punky knowing nothing about each other because they were a couple that met throughout the pandemic and then they got married and really didn't know each other. And I'll also mention this quick cutaway that we get at one point to Devin feeding Eggo, and it turns out that that's Keenan's parents, and that's the behind the scenes of this whole thing. But let's talk through this. So Darin, I'm going to start with you on this one. What did you think of Couple Goals?
This one I didn't know where it was going when it first started. At first I liked that JJ, the host, was named Bob DeBuilder. And then, at first I saw
I was dreaming that.
No.
I thought it was like, there's no way they said that.
They did. They said it. And so when I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay, this is like a newlywed game type of thing. And so then the first, flip when they show that Keenan's biggest fear was that his wife would fall down the stairs and hurt herself and in a way and then he would have to give up his dreams to support. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then, as you said, they kept going on. They cut to his father and mother in the audience, and you see his mother is in a wheelchair and she needs to be fed. And it's like, oh, okay, that's more of that. And then they came the final one with the Aruba and the asterisk, and then this whole diatribe he goes on about the climaxing in the redwoods or something.
Yeah, with her sister.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that really wowee. I didn't expect to hear that tonight. And so I liked it. I ultimately liked it, but yeah, it definitely took a lot of like weird twists and turns I wasn't expecting ultimately. But like ultimately, I'm glad I sat through it. I was like, oh wow, this is an interesting one. I need to think about this one a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll say I got a huge laugh out of that cutaway to the parents to find out this whole thing was just like Keenan didn't want to replicate what was happening to his parents. I think that was absolutely hilarious. But TJ, what bothered me about this sketch was I really feel like they had something very good here with the Andersons, with the Keenan and Quinta couple and this whole storyline with Keenan and his parents. And I felt like Michael and Punky's story was so did not add anything to the sketch. And if anything, it would have made more sense if Michael and Punky knew everything about each other so that it contrasted what happened with Keenan and Quinta. But because of the fact that they also didn't know stuff about each other, but that didn't matter as much, it was like a very weird segue that I felt like we were going on at some point, as opposed to being like, okay, this couple is perfect and here is the couple that is not.
No, I agree, because SNL seems to have this. I think we've all seen it. SNL seems to have this fascination with, like, okay, they kind of have the A thread, and then there's this B thread that sometimes feels off rhythm, or like sometimes it adds to the sketch. I'm thinking of the Lizzo Six Flags sketch where the bit is that, it's a bunch of living with a bunch of Six Flags guys, but there's a B thread of like Mikey not being able to fulfill, or not Mikey not being able to satisfy a woman. That's like a running under thread to that sketch. It does work. It works well together. But then there's other ones where it just feels like, guys, you're distracting a little bit more. It's not like it's not coming together as well. And I felt that. I mean, yeah, I think if you have one couple slowly going into chaos, I think having one couple doing well works. But just both couples going into chaos, then you would need what, like, a Vince Blake, a Bill Hader type to enjoy the chaos. It just the I don't know. Maybe Keenan should have been the host. I don't know. It was also really weird to see Keenan as a contestant. I don't know what it is about SNL's second thread that sometimes just doesn't link as well. And I feel like this is maybe one of those cases. And also, and Thomas said it too, which I love, is that like that cut to Ego. I don't know why they cut back to JJ so fast. It was like they should have stuck there, like, because you see Devin do the gesture, but it's almost like, wait, did the camera guy cut too quickly? And which it feels like, just a mistake of being live. I wonder if that's just a thing they'll fix in an edit. Because it's a big laugh, but the fact that they kind of also never really go back to it feels like that could have been the underlying beat. Like, I feel like that's the B thread because it supports the main piece of the sketch. So yeah, I feel it was a little disjointed as well, because there was definitely something there, not something excellent, but something that could have been more packaged together.
Yeah, you would traditionally think that the other couple would be the voice of the audience, who would be the one that's disgusted with this other couple and being like, why are they, like, why is Keenan feeling this way? But instead we get this storyline. Anyways, I thought it was fun. I just didn't think that it was perfect, and I think that they had a really strong idea here. But I have to talk about this traffic altercation sketch. I'm so excited to talk about it because you get to see, and you got to see like the green screens as they're setting this up on the commercial if you're watching on the American feed. But Chloe and Mikey are in one car, and they're almost hit by Quinta, who's in the other car. And we have this just like incredibly well done. I mean, props to everybody who like figured out, especially in the like directing department, to figure out how to set up the cameras, and the props departments, and everyone to put this together, because basically they have these like crazy camera angles where we're going to see like the front of the car and the side of both cars, really zoomed in on the different players here, where you have them miming stuff to each other as if, you would be talking to somebody else who has their window up. So like, yeah, it was just crazy that this was happening, and this was put together by Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, and Vanessa Jackson. So all props to them. And there's just so much fun where we get to see them, talking about how to roll down a window and being a weak man. And then I just gotta say, like, I mean, Chloe Fineman, like, just absolutely fantastic in this sketch. To me, this may have been maybe the best live sketch of the season.
Hey, yo.
Maybe the best live sketch of the season. So, TJ, what did you think of it?
I definitely thought like Chloe knowing the two-hand motion, which like I'll be honest, to do the side to side, very uncomfortable. Ask a man if he likes that first before
You
you
know
try
what?
that.
Nobody's asking for this.
Sure,
Yeah,
fine.
what?
You asked my opinion, John.
On the sketch, not on.
Yeah,
me. That
it's like
aside,
a pepper grinder thing. What are you
it's
doing?
also relevant because it is a literal
Peppa?
piece of the sketch. That motion. That aside, oh my god, the rhythm again. That aside, this was another case of like I have been saying for a few years now that Mikey Day is an underrated cast member, and this is just another showcase. And granted, I know people know that he's really good as a writer with Streeter, but he's not. I'm not saying he's the star. I'm saying that man is fantastic, and he's a really great performer. And I think like it was just him and the host and Chloe, and they were just anchoring the sketch, just the three of them. There wasn't any extra people. Although I will say, just a quick thing. These are two sketches back to back, by the way, that I really appreciated, where Ego pops up for less than 5 seconds, gets a huge laugh, and then leaves. Like, I feel like I barely saw her leave her mark, but like her in that as the mother, and then her again as the mother in the last sketch. Oh my God. Like, just Ego again, just so good, such a star. But that stuck in the traffic. How do I say this? I really appreciated this because of the way that it was set up. I was very surprised, by the way, that it was not followed with a pre-tape and then another live sketch. That was the only thing that kind of threw me off about the rhythm of the show, is you're used to, monologue, sketch, pre-tape, sketch, commercial, sketch, pre-tape, sketch. But this was, I don't know how long this sketch was, but it took I don't know, like this, it was really long. But I don't know. I thought it was really fun. I also love that Quinta got that last jab of like, hey, are you like hungry? And then like leads it into just another burn. I just like, it's just as like juvenile, but honestly, it just works. And so I think this was one of the two sketches of the night where Quinta felt like a host rather than a cast member doing really well in a sketch.
For sure. I mean, I totally agree. I think Quinta was amazing in this particular sketch. I just think that when I see a sketch like this, and I know how excited to talk about it, this is how I know it was like a really good one. And I also think just the fact that they set it up that Chloe is Mikey's daughter in this one, and you have the family dynamic already of like so many people are like, hey dad, like, don't like be a dick to the people in the car next door. So there's already like that added element of like the relationship between the father and daughter, and then the relationship, there's like a million storylines happening here, because first they're angry with each other, but then like Mikey thinks that they might actually want to be dating, and then you have like the Ego involvement as well. Like there's so many things here, and I think that's what Mikey Day and Streeter do so well, Darin, is that they're able to take a lot of these jumbled elements that won't work in other sketches, and then we're like, why did you include this? And instead they make this through line work between all of them so well, and that's what I'm enjoying getting to see from them, because I really feel like they're pushing themselves this season. So Darin, what did you think of this sketch?
I really like this sketch. I mean, I love the fact that there was like this really cool different cinematography shot, like this shot of basically like two different cameras, like one shooting into Mikey's car and another one shooting into Quinta's car. Like I know it's like we have seen a few like new little camera tricks throughout different episodes, like on the Jenna Ortega one, where the Exorcist sketch when Ego has to like scream out the window to her husband upstairs. It was like they put the camera outside the building and you see her kind of screaming upstairs. It's like I like little things like that. I really dig and think are really interesting. But yeah, I mean, the whole sketch in general I thought was really pretty fun and pretty fantastic. I like them going back and forth saying like roll down your window, and then him saying, why are you doing this? No one cranks the window anymore. They go like this now, and then her saying, no, I can't. This wouldn't read. This wouldn't read.
I love that note.
Like that little note. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, maybe sketch of the night for me. I thought it was a really strong concept, and again, I liked how at the end it looked like maybe the two of them were kind of might hook up or get together, and then Quinta just switches it on a dime to say "eat my butt." I was like, all right,
oh yeah,
that's a great way.
It was fantastic,
and of course, like you said, like Ego just popping out of nowhere, like the mom's in the back seat, just called him White Devil and just pops right back. Like, that was pretty fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. This was a great one. I really enjoyed this sketch.
And like, why was she sitting in the back seat? Like, why wasn't she sitting in the passenger seat? I mean, that's another added element here. But I think there's like, just think the lines were so quick here that it's so worth going back and rewatching this sketch. So I really think if you are an analyst like us of the show and you just love sketch comedy, I think this is the type of sketch that you really do have to watch 2 or 3 times to fully grasp everything that's going on here, similar to what we talked about with Waffle House a few weeks ago. So the fact that this was a live sketch when it easily could have been a pre-tape, I'm going to give a lot of props to them as well for this. So I think that this was a great job overall. I can't wait to talk about it more throughout the week. So let's talk briefly about Lil Yachty. TJ, Lil Yachty performed The Black Seminole and Drive Me Crazy tonight with guest Winter Gordon. So TJ, any thoughts on Lil Yachty tonight?
I am, because I was going to college around the time that Lil Yachty was kind of coming up with, like, when it was kind of, he was getting the mumble rapper kind of moniker, but he's kind of I feel like he's been trying to deviate from, like, not just doing that. Like, he has a song they did with like DaBaby and Drake called Oprah's Bank Account that I think is really fun. And so but he's also dabbled in like soundtrack work. He's an artist that I'm not saying is like the hype of artistry, but this guy really, I feel like it has tried to be outside of the niche that he came in with, that like would have put him out like in and out. Hip hop really is kind of like some like new rappers, because they're kind of in and out in 2 years, like, Blueface or whatever. I feel like he's tried to like shuck that like a little bit and try different things and work with different stuff. And I feel like I really appreciated that vocalist he had with him. I really like the band he had with him. You came in thinking it's just going to be like the Young Thug performance, like he's just going to rap, but no, I felt like he was trying something different, and I really appreciated it from a live performance, even with the auto tune. I'm not saying that's excellent, but I really thought the performance was very fun. And I was like, oh, I gotta look up these songs afterwards. The hat was too big. It gave me Pharrell early 2010s energy, but other than that, I thought it was a good time.
Cool. Darin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were okay. I'm not. I know a little bit about Lil Yachty, but not too much.
Yeah, Lil about Lil.
My man. But yeah, like like TJ said, like I knew he came in on that wave of mumble core SoundCloud rappers, like Little Pumps and whoever else, and like I didn't really pay too much attention to him then. But then I knew he came out with this new album a few weeks ago, and I wasn't gonna listen to it. But then like I think I remember, what was like Questlove said somewhere, like really praising the album. Like Questlove came out, it's like, oh
really?
yeah, it's look it up. It's online somewhere. Like like Questlove was like, oh no, this guy's really taking chances. He's really spreading. He's really kind of spreading his wings as an artist. And I love the Roots, so I was like, all right, well if it's good enough for Questlove, maybe I'll listen.
He's definitely been slowly trying new stuff. Like he did a this is so offhand, but like there was a Teen Titans Go movie, and he did a couple songs on their soundtrack for them, where it's like it's very much like cartoony, like poppy rap, rather than like what he kind of came in doing. So he's really trying to go from being like just that rapper to like trying to be a little bit more, which he's trying to, it seems like he's trying to get more to just being an artist, which I think
Awesome.
it's interesting, and you gotta support that if it's fun.
Yeah, he definitely kind of get the performances I liked. I thought they were okay, but like you said, he's trying to kind of get out of that little box that he's put in. It's almost like kind of like a Childish Gambino-ish, I guess you could say.
Hold on, hey, you better watch. You better watch very closely. You want to watch very. There's literally a picture of Gambino behind my head at all times. So
as much as I'm enthralled with all of the Lil Yachty talk, I think we have to talk about what happened on Weekend Update. Let's do that. So let's talk about what happened tonight on Weekend Update. I'm going to try my best to explain this to the best of my ability. Obviously, we'll find out more about this as we go through the week. But basically, our friend Ellis, who's always great and works with us all the time, he says that he was at dress rehearsal tonight and told me that Michael and Colin were not the best during dress rehearsal this particular week. And in particular, they talked about, that, there wasn't enough laughs for some of the jokes, and that it seemed like they were bombing a little bit during dress tonight. And I'm not sure if that played into what ended up happening on air, but basically, if you're watching what happens on air, at some point during the, they're going through the jokes, you can hear that Colin's not getting a lot of laughs. And then there's these like loud roars for Che. And then when Colin finishes telling one of his jokes, we hear from the audience, someone yell, "You stink."
Yeah.
Right? So I'll explain. So basically the breakdown, and then, he's kind of like, what the hell? I mean, people don't usually interrupt update, and like, is the person going to get kicked out? And you start thinking like, oh, wow, like update's a mess tonight. And Che ends up revealing, and he was like, yeah, well, like, this is all like an April Fool's joke. And the truth was, what had happened is Michael Che usually does the warm up before the live show.
I knew it.
So he came out and he told the audience, he's like, I don't want you guys giving anything to Colin. I want you to give me everything tonight for updates. So it was all like a big play on Colin. And it was actually John Higgins from Please Don't Destroy, who had come out to the front of the audience, and he was the one that yelled, "You stink." I don't know that Colin could have seen that, because of the lights on him when he's on home base. So I don't know that he could have seen who was the one who yelled it. So he wouldn't have necessarily known. But we get this like amazing breakdown of update where Colin like can't keep it together, and like he's just like, "That's so mean. I can't believe you would do that to me." And like it was really raw and like exactly what I want to see from these guys. Like break the format, break the routine. So to me, this was like an all-time moment from them, and will be absolutely on their highlight reel whenever they finish up on the show. TJ, what'd you think of it?
I mean, honestly, it's the spirit of the holiday, April Fool's Day, which I don't know how many Saturdays have fallen on an April. I don't know how many April 1st have fallen.
So this is only the second time SNL has ever aired an episode on April 1st. The first one, 1989, host Mel Gibson. Sounds like an April Fool's joke.
Yikes. Yeah, that sounds like an April Fool's joke in and of itself. Oof.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for like yeah. Got the heebie-jeebies a little bit. Yeah. No. But this. I mean, it's the spirit of the holiday, which is fun. People really get into the April Fool's Day, just kind of announcing weird stuff. But the thing that threw me off is that like I saw Colin's reaction, but like you still hear people laugh a little bit, and so I was confused on like. As I was watching, it's like I feel like I missed something because Che is saying I told them not to laugh for you, but you do hear people laughing, and I'm like, does SNL use I don't think SNL uses a laugh track because I didn't hear one when I was there, and so that threw me off too because I was like, wow, like what really happened here? But I did think it was a very fun derail because there's nothing like seeing a rich white man crumble that really just brings joy to my heart and honestly in the spirit of any holiday. So well done on Che, and I would happily see him do it again. There's gosh, but when you think, but yeah, to a comedian that actually, Darin, you are the comic, so like, how cruel is that?
I mean, it ain't good, but it is hilarious. So it was weird to see that. Like I said earlier, like I did notice that, like Jost was getting like less than nothing for his, and the jokes weren't that bad, but they were definitely not giving him anything. It was like kind of weird. And then, like you said, when I heard somebody scream at him or somebody say "you suck" or "you stink," I was like, what the fuck? It was, and then of course that's when Che revealed that, oh yeah, it was just prank. Like I really got a kick out of that because it really just kind of shook things up, and that's something we've been talking about. SNL needs just like it's a live show, so let's do something that can only be done live. Let's shake things up. Let's like mess with the format a little bit. Let's get out of the formula. And it really, it definitely, Jost was definitely shaken for the rest of the show. But like I don't know, it was just really hilarious. I really enjoyed that they kind of had this like little once in a lifetime moment that on the show like that. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen every Weekend Update ever. I always love Weekend Update because I like hearing the stories of the week and told in a funny way, and it's always great to get great characters and stuff like this. But like, these are the moments that we're always going to remember from Weekend Update when things happen and start to change. And I think it's like, it goes into the joke swaps or the really with Seth and Amy's or anytime or the point counterpoints back in the day. Like anytime you're going to break format and like do something between the anchors, that's like great. I think that's fun. And this was so, yes, it was a planned bit, but it was so organic because Colin wasn't in on it that's what made this fantastic. So for me, this is a pure highlight from season 48 that I'm so excited was there. And what I think was also really great is like it didn't have to come from Sarah Sherman on a Sarah News or like a Leslie Jones pushing Colin Jost buttons. It came from his co-anchor here, and the chemistry between the two just like radiated across the screen. So awesome job from Che tonight for putting that together. So also on Update tonight, we get first Michael Longfellow, whose parents were concerned about seeing Michelangelo's penis, and he comes out in full Michelangelo. Amazing job by everybody who put this together, makeup department, costume department, everything like that. And Michelangelo just comes out, starts screaming as he's trying to move his head. Talks about what's considered art, what's considered pornography. Lots of penis talk tonight, but again, some really fun jokes here as well. Darin, what do you think of Michael as Michelangelo?
Michael as Michelangelo.
You're killing me.
Michael as Michelangelo. I liked it. Like, whenever Longfellow comes out and does these characters, he kind of playing the same character, like has like sort of that dry wit. He had it when he was the groundhog, and he had it when he was like Dilbert. It's kind of his go-to, but like, I don't know, the things he does with it, he's always finds new ways to kind of get, some comedy out of his character, like him hit like something slow, like something small, like him turning his head after Chase, like, hey, can you turn your head over here? And he's like, and like him screaming, just something like that. I thought was hilarious. Him mentioning that, oh yeah, on Italy you can show like full penetration on TV.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, those are my two takeaways. It's like, holy
wow, there's a lot of penis talk on this thing.
Let me just clarify for the audience, though, by the way, we're not talking about Michelangelo's penis. We're talking about David's penis. Michelangelo was the artist, so I apologize for all the confusion in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just want to make sure. I wouldn't want to.
Michelangelo's David, like it's Frankenstein. It's like
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Just want to clarify for everyone.
Yeah. Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Gotcha. Ninja Turtle. But yeah, overall, I liked it. I don't know. It seems like Longfellow sort of carved this little lane for him, where he's able to use his kind of laissez-faire, laid-back, kind of dry humor demeanor to his advantage in these little weekend update desk segments. And I don't know. A lot of people say, oh, it gives me like Norm vibes or whatnot, but I don't know. I really dig it. I really like what he's doing here.
Yeah. I think that there were some really funny lines in this one, including him talking about the Italian version of SNL, which, of course, if there was one, we would be doing hot take shows all the time for the Italian version of SNL, where you can show full penetration. And Matt Foley lived in a. Well, it's what he said. I mean, Matt Foley didn't live in a van but down by the river. He lived in a man down by the river. So great stuff here.
Hot.
Yeah. TJ, would you say one hand is art and two hands is pornography?
Wait, what?
All right.
I don't get that reference.
It's okay. What do you think of Michelangelo?
John, you are doing some damage to me tonight. Like, what is happening here? I thought this was really funny. Darin, you threw to the observations, or not the observations, the two favorite things I enjoyed, like just his scream about moving his neck. It was Michael Longfellow. Has he been talking to Bowen about like, hey, Bowen, like you put on a bunch of costumes and like makeup. Can you like help me get into that? Is he just like eyeing like what Bowen's been doing? Also, because you guys commented on every good piece of the correspondent, and I really liked it. I'm gonna this might be more of a roundtable comment, but whatever. Is there something that like in Michael Longfellow's energy in the season, in the part B of the season, where this man this isn't a boy cast member. He really seems like he has some confidence, and I'm not talking about like the alpha arc. I mean, he feels like he is going and having some fun on this show, and he isn't like I'm forgetting he's a first year, because he doesn't have that like rookie nervous energy that like Devin still has, that Molly still has, that like Marcelo's trying to shake off, but Michael Longfellow is shed it completely and like feels like a cast member. Like him and that is that like heroin dealer, and like doing the things that they have him doing and they're throwing to him. He just has a lot more confidence built in his works, and so doing pieces like this, like Dilbert, like the Groundhog, like his stand-up pieces. I mean, this young man is really making it is really finding ways to make his own imprint in this season, and I think he's doing it exceptionally well. And that's what this piece I think just adds to, honestly, what I think is a really great first season. I think all of these, I think these rookies are having some of the best rookie first years ever in the history of Saturday Night Live. But I know that's more of a by the numbers kind of thought, but it just I think this piece just adds to a really great first year for a new cast member. He's been on the update desk, at least 5 times? 2 stand-up pieces and 3 characters.
It's amazing. It's a really solid year. And I think we're going to recap it as we keep going, because I think there's there's more, right? We got 5 more episodes potentially to see him back there. So it could be an all-time rookie year at the update desk. So would be great to see what he can do. But we also have to talk about Marcelo Hernandez, who came out as himself tonight, talking about it was Short King Spring, and had some really fun jokes about who's different celebrities that are short, or ones that are tall, and having some fun back and forth with Colin, saying us tiny titans get it, and then the back to back, and Marcelo, I can't stand up because I'm already standing. So Darin, what do you think of Short King Spring from Marcelo?
I thought this was a fun little death segment for him. Marcelo always brings the energy, and something like this, like you kind of need somebody to really sell it. And like, I think it's just Marcelo's energy and enthusiasm really just kind of pushes this over for me. Talking about, like you said, talking about short kings, and how you think it sounds like a compliment, but it's a little derogatory. And he's just speaking for short people everywhere. He talks about tall people, like Army Hammer is 7'3". It's like, that can't be right. And of course a little back and forth he has with Jost is hilarious, who just insists that he's 6 foot, and he keeps telling him to stand up so they can measure each other back to back. I really dig it. It is a thing. Like, I think most guys are always sort of conscious about how tall they are and their height. So like, maybe this hit for a lot of dudes and whatnot. Not tall kings like myself, but other dudes out there. I'm only 5'10", whatever. But like, overall, like, I like this sketch. Again, Marcelo is like, he has the energy, and he really knows how to sell it. He just really knows how to just really knock it out the park when he needs to. So I dug this one.
For sure. I think it was weird that he made a joke about Lil Wayne when Lil Yachty was in the building as the musical guest, and he couldn't have gone in that. I know he's tall. I know he's tall. I know he's tall, but I'm saying, but yeah, is Lil Wayne that short? I don't think so.
I don't know. John, how tall are you?
I am 5'10".
Okay. How tall are you really?
No, I'm actually 5'10". Yeah.
Are you actually 5'10"? Oh wow, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as the resident short king on the podcast, I'm 5'6.5". Put some respect on my name for the half. I didn't know I was short until the pandemic, when I was watching a bunch of TikToks and I saw a bunch of women referring to 5'6" and 5'7" and stuff as short. I had no idea that I was short. I was like, oh, I didn't know, because I have the confidence of let's just say I have a lot of confidence in who I am as a man. So I had no idea. So this whole short king complex thing, I think, is very fun, because I just am like, oh, that's a fun kind of personality thing, I guess. But the Osama bin Laden is like, only tall people being evil people cracks me up, because Darin and I were hanging out today, and I always forget, like, he and I went to go grab some food, and I like, he came up to me, and he was coming uphill. So I was like, he was coming uphill, and as he got closer to me, I forgot how he's taller than me, and I'm like,
you thought he was Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, like, exactly. I was like, oh, there's evil afoot, like this nefariousness.
It's the beard. It's the beard.
I have a beard too. So does John. No, but I appreciated this, because I do like the short king, like, jokes and references and lexicon. I think it's very funny. So I think this is a fun piece, and also Marcelo's been no slouch at the weekend update desk either, right? He's been there at least 3 or 4 times too.
He's
I think twice as himself, and then once as a character. So yeah.
And I'm sure even though he may be a short king, I'm sure he's doing great. So
I wonder how tall he really is. Did he say 5'7"?
I don't know, but if anybody knows, let us know. So cut from Weekend Update tonight was also a Chloe and Heidi piece where they were together.
What?
Yeah, they came out together as Gwyneth Paltrow and the lawyer for the man that was suing Gwyneth Paltrow, who was like obsessed with Gwyneth and asking her all these questions about like her life and like Taylor Swift and stuff like that. And this was like the biggest thing ever this week. So I'm pretty surprised that they cut this. But yeah, I wonder if they may get to it next week, even though the trial just wrapped up. But yeah, that would have been Chloe and Heidi's piece. And I assume the Che and Jost bit went long, so they had to cut this. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I would have
probably
loved that.
yeah,
Oh,
that's the one that got cut tonight. All right, let's head to our next sketch. First one after update, and this is a fun sketch called Midwife, where Quinta is helping Heidi give birth. Ego's there as a nurse, and they're waiting for the midwife to come. So Barry, the midwife, comes in, and there's this whole storyline about how Quinta can't remember Barry, and then the baby gets delivered, and then we go forward in time and backward in time, and then forward in time again to find out this whole storyline between Barry and Quinta about recognizing Bowen's character. And yeah, I mean, I assume, and this is what Ellis told me as well, that this is a really fun sketch to watch in person as they go set to set and have all of the different people come into the sets. But I wonder if this is really meant to be really great for the live audience, and maybe it's not like as doesn't work on television as well. But TJ, I'm curious what you thought of Midwife.
this was the only, if I'm just keeping it back, I think this was the only weak sketch of the night, honestly, or at least this was the weakest point. It felt very similar to the energy of John Les. What was it? A few weeks ago, we had the sketch where Bowen was wearing a Stewie Griffin T-shirt.
Yeah, the
with,
Hinge
I
one.
think, yes, the Hinge one. Which that one at least had something a little bit more to it, but it felt very much like this had the energy of like when like I would picture like back when Kate was on the show. Kate, I'm assuming Kate didn't do this, but like let's say Kate walks into the room. I want to play this. I'm like, okay, Kate, and we're just gonna let her do it. Like I want to play a doctor who's we know this. Like it felt very much the energy. Like I think Bowen has gained enough clout. Like, well, I'm Emmy nominated, so you can write good things for me, or I can tell you what I want to do. And it felt very much like this is something a cast member really wanted to do, because I really had a tough time trying to see like the delivering babies very fast bit is really funny. Like, oh, and I also delivered this baby. Like it's hilarious, but like I don't know about you guys. This one just did not work for me.
Yeah, I think that this one was, I'm having the toughest time figuring out how I really feel about it. I think that I like the idea of going back and forth in time. I think that's fun, and it's like a
Yes.
little fresh, that it's not something that we see like too much that's overdone. And I think the bit about the hair was probably my favorite part, next to the girl at the end who's like, we've met each other before. She delivered that line so beautifully.
Oh,
that
she was
girl.
great. Oh yeah, she was great.
She was really great. So I think there were things that worked here. It just didn't feel like fully baked. So what do you think of it, Darin?
I didn't mind it as much as you guys did, but I understand like how it can be a little. It was a very weird sketch. It was really
Very
weird.
weird.
I felt like it had I felt like it was almost going to be like another rehash of, like you said, Garrett from Hinge, which I wasn't crazy about that sketch at all, really, because I just felt that was pretty kind of one note and really didn't. It was just kind of didn't go anywhere, and it was just kind of meandering. But like I think the switch up they did with them kind of going back and forward in time, and Bowen's hair length changing, like to the point where, like you said, like the end, like he has like this huge long hair that goes like down to his knees, and he's almost breaking through it. I think that helped it like kind of move it a little bit more. And like I think like when they go back in time and like you said, like when he just delivers the baby like with ease, that's when you're like, oh, okay, this is just silly, super weird, goofy times. Okay. And I think like once you kind of appreciate for that, then you're able to go with a little bit more. Like I did like there was that one point when they were at the barbecue meeting for the first time and they're laughing, and then Bowen just picks up a baby off the floor off the ground out of nowhere. And like I like stuff like that, I got a silly little laugh out of. But like I understand the sketch might not be for everybody, but I think it's weird enough and silly enough that I got some laughs out of me, and I think this just felt like a 10-1 sketch, to be honest. I'm surprised there were like we have 2 more sketches to go. This felt like something that should have been like at this total tail end of the night.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I think that I don't know what I didn't like about it. I just like it just like didn't fully work. But I think that there were things that were really funny, like the picking up the baby, the fact that they kept like talking about this Macklemore concert. I think that was also weird and fun. But it was just like, I don't know, maybe it was the like the non sequiturs that like all like I don't know. But overall, I would love to rewatch this one for sure because it seems like the chat is mostly middling on it as well. And I do wonder if the comparisons to Garrett from Hinge, which I think universally was seen as a mid sketch, would took away from this one. Like if we hadn't seen that one a few weeks ago, and then our community who watches all of the sketches made that comparison right away to Bowen, I wonder if on its own this may have worked better. I don't know, just something to think about. Let's dive into the next one, which is called Bosses. This is a PDD, DiCenzo, and Nordwin sketch where we have Bowen and Molly talking to Chloe, who has just joined the office for the first month. And Chloe is talking about how she's been having a good time there, except that Daniels has been very weird. And then in comes a classic Sarah Sherman character, being a pervert, talking about setting off the penis alert, engaging X-ray vision, Houston, we have nipples. And then we also get Quinta coming in as well with Benson, who's been here forever, who's talking about the big old buttered yams. And ultimately it's the two of them having some fun together. And then Heidi, who's Heather from HR, comes out, classic HR name Heather. And, we find out that this turns into a musical performance from the very famous Penis Brothers. So I would love to know, TJ, what do you think of this one, Bosses?
This brought the energy back up for me. Like,
Me too.
I think, this is a fantastic, like, little piece for Sarah. I feel like this is one of the few times we see Chloe Fineman break. Also, I don't feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I don't see Chloe Fineman break too often. I think I'm thinking when she's been paired with Heidi in the Debbie Hole and Stacey Bussy sketch where Heidi is like breaking and trying to keep it together, but like Chloe is like throwing herself around, but like pretty much like staying static. So I appreciated that, but also the minute that Quinta walked in with that suit and that wig, I was in heaven. I was like, this is it. Like she was dressed like the guy from Sanford and Son. I hope I got that right. Sanford is one of those old Red Fox, I think, is the guy I'm thinking of.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, I thought that was so funny. The wigs are great. And this was very much, there was such a silliness to this episode. And this to me was the other time that like Quinta felt like a host of the show. So I loved this. I will rewatch this one. The Penis Brothers, that was, somebody came up with that. The Penis Brothers. That's crazy, son. This is a delight.
Absolutely. I mean, Darin, I think that, this works for you if you love Sarah Sherman and then you get to see her in her playground having some fun. And I think that the reason that I like this probably more than I would have had Quinta not been the host in it is because Quinta was able to match Sarah's energy here. So that's for me what like elevated this sketch. How'd you feel about it?
Same thing. I thought it was like a nice little silly sketch. I think the fact that they had, two women dressed as men made it a little bit like, I think if it was like actually two guys doing this, it would probably be a little more problematic. So the fact that they had two women dressed as men, it makes it a little bit more palatable, and just them saying these silly things, and it ends with them playing bongos on her chest is
crazy. Like,
that was wow. And of course it ends with them getting fired. And and that's it. Like I think the sketch was like just short enough to like they didn't draw it out too much. So like I thought that was probably the best way to go. And overall, I thought it was okay. It was an okay sketch.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, next up, and finally, we get to our sketch of the night that it will end it. And it is Please Don't Destroy, called Street Eats. And this time, very bizarre that we see PDD, who are not playing themselves, I assume. They're given different character names, and they're walking around New York. They just moved there from Connecticut, and they're going into Jamaican Queens looking for jerk chicken. And there's this whole thing about they're ignorant about the food and being in New York and other cultures, and they end up talking to Quinta, who plays a cashier, and then Punky, who ends up kicking them out, and then they end up going into a bodega later on, or they call it a bodega. And
unacceptable. Just unacceptable to call it a bodega.
And they get into a fight with a construction worker played by Marcelo, and then ultimately they get hit by a taxi. So interesting enough, in dress rehearsal, this actually had a different ending. They didn't get hit by the taxi. In dress, after Quinta got rid of them, a new ignorant trio came in, played by 3 other guys in the cast, like Andrew and Michael, and I think JJ came in, and they replaced them to come review food. So instead, they actually had a better ending, from what I was told in live. But Darin, let us know your thoughts on the final sketch of the night.
I really dug this one. I really like that as a native New Yorker. As somebody who grew up in Jamaica, Queens, it's really like hit me in the heart. I like I think it was John Higgins who said like, oh yeah, there's all these cultures in New York City, like Italian, Mexicans, and college students. Like I think that was basically like the target they were going for. Like, you know, basically trust fund kids, college students who come here from wherever, and they want to be kind of immersed in the New York culture, and they just kind of get it all wrong. So, you know, as a native New Yorker, that I like when you kind of, you know, take them down a peg and take the wind out of their sails quite a bit. And, you know, the mispronunciation of Bodega, and and, you know, at the end they're almost getting hit by a cab. Like I don't know, this stuff. I like the way they ended this shot. This was a pretty great sketch.
TJ, what do you think?
I mean, I'm on the same like level as Darin. I think for me the silliest laughs from this were when the camera zooms in on the unseasoned plate of chicken that they're eating, and then it finishes with them taking a shot of Pepto Bismol. I think there was just something very fun and very silly about this. And as somebody who is like, I'm not a native New Yorker. I live in New Jersey, which means that like I'm supposed to have some kind of weird claim on New York. I don't. I go into the city maybe once or twice a month. And I'm mostly in Midtown or in the Village. And so I haven't got a chance to really branch out. But when I go in there, I try not to act like a fool. I try to mind my business, and I try to just keep it pushing. This seemed like some silly nonsense. If I saw somebody doing this, I'd be like, come on, man. Like, just keep it moving, bro. Like, people got places to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was very funny. I did for a second think they were playing their actual peep themselves, because like there's a moment when there's the screen flashes and they're scrolling comments, the phrase 3 sad versions pops up for like a second. And so I was like, oh, like, and as I thought, like, oh, so I guess they are the PDD guys in this, or it was probably just like a reference to that old one. But 4th PDD pre-tape in a row.
Right.
Another, and I'm not saying it was their funniest one, but just another solid, funny sketch. Just, I mean, can they stop winning? I don't even want them to. I enjoy rooting for them, honestly. I know they're Nepo babies, but darn it, they're funny.
So can I say, I think that my issue with this PDD pre-tape was not that they weren't playing themselves. I do like the creativity of them playing characters. That's totally fine and it works for me. But I think that what I like from PDD and what I miss maybe here is that I think that the pace of the PDD pre-tapes is so quick. Like they're so quick-witted with everything, the jump cuts they do and all that stuff. And I felt like the style of the PDD pre-tape tonight was so it was a little bit different. And I know that last time when they're like driving in the car, it wasn't exactly what we would traditionally see here. But to me, this felt like it just felt like a little bit off. Like it sort of defied my expectations of what I would expect from them. And I'm not sure if it was a good or a bad thing, but I think there's been other ones this year where they've taken liberties, like, you know, like the stakeout, or, you know, being with Brendan Gleeson at the frat party or whatever it is, that I think that have been more creative and fun for me than this. And you know, but I do agree with TJ. They're definitely one of the best parts of the season. One of the most underrated parts, in my opinion, of season 48 is how solid they've been.
I don't think they're underrated, because listen to the cheers they get every single
well, I just think they were such a big deal in season 47 that I think it was hard to praise them as much. So I think, that's the only thing, is like they haven't, like, if anything, they've gotten better. You know, like they haven't taken a stop on it. Yeah. So, but the hype was there for 47 as maybe, and maybe not as much in 48. But anyways, look, this was a fun night. With some really classic moments that I think we're going to talk about for a long time. So I want to get ratings from TJ and Darin and the chat as well. But first, let me tell you guys what was cut from the show tonight. So we had a sketch called Torture Room, where Mikey and Keenan and Sarah were drugged and kidnapped, except Sarah knew who the Sarah knew who the kidnapper was from 20 years ago because she smelled funny, and the kidnapper was played by Quinta. And then there's this whole thing where Mikey gets killed, and there's like dummies involved, and Keenan gets killed, and there's dummies involved. And apparently in dress rehearsal, there was like some mix up with the stagehands, and they had issues putting the dummies together on the seats. There was a lot of blood involved, but basically this was a Sarah sketch, torture room. Then there was a pre-tape called Meet Me in Denver, and this one might pop up online, so I won't do too much plot on it. But basically Quinta's getting off a flight, and there are a couple who call each other off their flight to Denver, and she thinks she doesn't look good, so she's in the bathroom trying to get ready, and then she talks to Andrew, and he doesn't look good as well. So there's a lot of stuff like that about how they look off their flight from Meet Me in Denver. And then final sketch that got cut was a James Bond sketch with a poker game with Keenan as a dealer, JJ as a villain, Michael as Bond, who slid into the DMs of Ego and Quinta, who are eager to win money and talk about the scene as it goes down. So James Bond, torture room, Meet Me in Denver, all cut from the night. All right, TJ, let me go to you for your rating out of 10 on the Quinta Brunson and Lil Yachty episode.
I'm gonna go 8.75. I think this was strong, a great ensemble piece, but it wasn't to the host wasn't doing the star level work that like a Betty White was, where there was a great episode on top of a host. Like, no. I think that's one of the strongest like hosted episodes ever.
Sure.
And so I think it wasn't like, well, I think Quinta is a star. I'm talking strictly in this hosting gig that if I'm comparing it to like the greatest of hosting gigs, I don't think it was at that level because she was too good, which is so crazy to say. But it was incredible. I enjoyed it, and I will be watching some of these sketches and sharing some of them with people.
All right, Darin, give us your rating.
Let me unmute myself here. Yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Like I said before, the cold open was the only thing that really didn't super work for me. Everything else I liked or I got a kick out of. And if we're including musical guests in the score, yeah, I'll give it a 7. I mean, I thought Quinta was a great host. She kind of, like you said, like melded into the cast, but she held her own. I think the sketches are, for the most part, pretty solid. The writing is definitely getting stepped up a bit. They're trying new things. They're trying different things. They're trying to switch things up. Maybe they listen to this podcast and other SNL podcasts about how they're kind of in a rut. So now they're like really trying to like pump it up a bit and really trying to different things and just trying to kind of maybe reinvent themselves a little bit. And I'm here for it. I cheer it on. So I'll give this episode a 7.
All right. Well, I would have given it a 7, but I have to give it an extra 0.5 for the fact that this Colin Jost and Michael Che moment on Weekend Update is something that I'm going to be looking back at and talk about for a long time. I really hope they don't cut any of it from reruns like SNL. Like, this is our plea from the community. Don't cut this for the reruns. Don't put it up on YouTube with the dress version. Like, we want to see this. This is what makes SNL great and live. So I think for me, this will probably end up at a 7.5. Some really solid sketches, some other ones that maybe needed some more work. But overall, I'm really pleased with our start to April and looking forward next week so much to the return of Molly Shannon and the Jonas Brothers. And that's going to be so much fun to get to talk about. Obviously, we'll be live after that show. But before we get there, we have a few more Quinta Brunson and Lil Yachty shows to do. And first, we will be back on Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for our roundtable talk about Quinta Brunson, her history in sketch comedy, and why she made a great host of SNL and all of the best sketches and moments of the night. I'm sure we'll talk more about Weekend Update and some of the sketches we didn't get to dive into even deeper tonight. Wednesday night, Mike Murray will be back with By the Numbers to talk about all the numbers from the week. So make sure to check out that show. I've been really impressed with everything Mike has been doing with By the Numbers this week. So this season. So if you haven't checked out that show, give it a chance. It's really, really great to get all the screen time and all the analytics. It helps you understand the cast members this season. And of course, we'll be back with our patron feedback show as well on Thursday to answer questions from the week and look forward to Molly Shannon's return to Saturday Night Live. All right, TJ, please tell the listeners where they can reach out to you and check out everything you're doing. And thank you for joining us this week.
Well, thank you always for having me, and thank you for letting me do this episode. I was very happy to. I have a 15-ish minute podcast called Rabbit Trail. That's REBID. It's available everywhere, and several wonderful faces from the SNL network have been gracious enough and more than happy enough to join me. Darin is our most recent, newest SNL network guest. He came on a few weeks ago during we were doing a couple of Black History Month or top Black focused topics. We did Black nerds and talked about blurred culture and things. And Darin has been on it. He and I have since hung out because we live near each other in New Jersey, and he's a delightful man. And this week, this Monday, so whenever this is released, so tomorrow, we'll be dropping an episode on the 3DS, the Nintendo 3DS, but in memoriam, talking about the console. If you know, the eShop just recently closed, and so we're reflecting on it, and we're having a friend of ours, Consigneros, who's a returning guest, who's going to be joining us. And then the following week, we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, the game, because the movie's coming out. I just saw the movie; it was really fun, so we can talk a little bit about the game, not spoil the movie. You can follow our podcast. You can find us on streaming platforms. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at We Are Rabbit Trail. Again, that's RABID. You can find me, TJ, at King Compliment on Instagram and TikTok.
Darin, what a pleasure to get to talk to you again. Always amazing to hear your thoughts on the season, and in particular this episode. So please tell the listeners where they can hear from you every single week.
Thank you. Yeah, listeners can listen to me on the SNL Nerds podcast. Me and my good friend John Trumbull. We break down each newest episode of SNL. We go off on random tangents, say funny things, say inappropriate things. We say all the things. And whenever SNL is off, we do like a SNL related movie, or we do something else SNL related. It was my birthday a couple weeks ago, so we did an episode about an SNL episode that came out on my birthday. We did the Sting Veruca Salt episode from 1997. We talked all about that, and it's a doozy. So give that a listen. You can listen to SNL Nerds wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Tunes, or wherever it's called now. And you can follow us on Twitter at SNL Nerds Show. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Darin Credible. That's DARIN Credible.
Awesome. You can find me at Jon Schneider 24. Check out everything we're doing on social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at the SNL Network. And thanks to everybody in the chat for staying up late with us, and TJ and Darin, my penis brothers. So on behalf of everybody here at the Saturday Night Network,
hold on.
We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good